Welcome to the Fire and Earth podcast with your hosts, Jason Mefford and Kathy Gruber. Fire and Earth, giving you the keys to unlock your limitless potential.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. I'm your co-host, Kathy Gruber.
And I'm Jason Mefford. Hey everybody, today, let me just kind of give you a little background on what we kind of wanted to talk about. Because, some of these episodes are honestly is things that we're learning in our own life, or maybe things that we're struggling with as well. And so we want to bring that and share that with you too. That's part of the reason why we are doing this, right? Now, we've talked a lot about, things like visualization, as part of helping you to manifest. But one thing that, especially the last few weeks, I start noticing when I see things or hear things 2, 3, 4 times, that's a synchronistic type of thing that I need to listen to. And so, one of these things that I've been learning more, and since Kathy's really kind of an expert on some of this stuff too, we're gonna delve in a little bit deeper on this. But it's increasing your kind of sensory aspect to some of the manifestation and visualization, right? And Kathy, I know you've helped lots of people with this. I'm guessing there's other people like me that are more literal left brain kind of people. And so as we're sitting here trying to visualize, again, I don't see the clear pictures more like you do, right? So I'm still trying to somewhat imagine it in my mind, but I have difficulty sometimes just trying to think about just the picture, right? Like I'm watching a movie or something like that. And like I said, I've heard things from a couple of different people, and in some of the like self-hypnosis kind of stuff that I've gone through, bringing more senses into it. And it's made a difference for me. And so wanted to talk a little bit about that. And then I think we said we might actually do a little exercise on this too, to try to help people with that. So.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And when I teach meditation, inevitably there's one at every other conference or so that goes, I can't sit still. Okay, well, you don't have to sit still. You can do a walking meditation. You can do, bring your body into it. And because I'm a visual kinesthetic, I love the feeling aspect of that. So there are times during a hypnosis session where I might have somebody, I'll say, reach out and open that door, and I will actually have them reach out with their hand and turn the knob. Or there's an exercise in hypnosis called the gray room, where you're sitting in a room and it's surrounded by Post-it notes or pieces of paper, and they are things that you want to get rid of. And I will sit there with a tablet of paper, killed a lot of trees doing this, but sit there with a tablet of paper and say, now tear it off. And I'll have them tear up the piece of paper and crumple it and throw it. And, so by the end of the session, there's paper all over my office.
So you'll actually have them physically do it.
Oh,
too.
yes.
Okay. Cause that gray room that you're talking about, that was actually one that I went through. In fact, it was yesterday.
Oh, cool.
That the person actually, walked through the meditation of, you're in this round gray room with a dome ceiling. It's gray. He did it where it was white and red pieces of paper on the wall. And so, you try to envision that it's, I kind of did it more like Post-it notes, because that's,
that's kind of what I know too. Kind of what we picture, but
yeah. So, something that you physically see yourself go up, grab those red pieces of paper and crumple them up. So you're actually having people physically do some of that stuff too during the session. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Because since the brain doesn't recognize what we're thinking about and imagining and what's actually happening, you visualizing stuff happening in your body, or this is why when we watch movies, we can get so into them, because we forget that we're not actually helping Tom Cruise get the bad guys, or we wake up from a dream and we're like, oh, I feel about having sex with my neighbor, because our brains think we did that thing. I actually had a client sit down with me, this was several years ago, and he was so upset. I thought, oh my God, what is he about to tell me? He's like, I did something so horrible. I'm like, okay, what did you do? And he goes, I dreamt that I had sex with my neighbor's wife, and I think I should tell him. And I'm like, I think you shouldn't. I think
that's not going to go to a good place.
No, that's not going to go over well. But he felt so guilty. But his brain thought it actually happened. So our brains are amazing. in that way. So actually having somebody do that action, signing that contract over and over again, right? This is why we like writing things down. That's the kinesthetic aspect of it. And again, if you think back to other episodes, when we write something cursive, that loopy stuff we're not taught anymore, it goes straight to the subconscious. There's a connection between the brain and the hand and that writing that helps us get stuff done. It's kinesthetic. And if you go way back in history, you got sympathetic magic, where the tribes people would actually dress in like deer skins and horns, and they would reenact the hunt, basically telling the gods what they wanted. Well, now we know there's no gods. Of course, actually, we don't know that. There could be God Zeus sitting up there going, ha, ha, ha. But they did the sympathetic magic to kind of let the universe know, hey, this is what we want. It actually kind of works because our brains move towards things that we know, things that we're familiar with. So reenacting that thing we want that's good, please, over and over again, our brains are going to be more apt to get us in the position for that thing. That was my spiel on that.
Well, this is one of those episodes too, right? So everybody that's watching, not just listening, you're going to keep seeing my head go down because I'm writing a ton of notes because I'm learning a bunch from this too. So, again, just like Kathy said, here's another thing too, is you don't have to just listen to the podcast. Actually, if you are in a place where you can sit down, take a few notes on this, it's going to help you remember and incorporate some of this stuff into your subconscious easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And our brains also, and this is the exercise. Should we do an exercise?
Let's do an exercise.
Okay. So I don't remember where I heard about this exercise. I might have made it up. I don't know. I don't remember. But when I did my retreat in the Dominican Republic, I brought this bag of random objects, and I remember just like walking around my house, just grabbing random things, and my husband going, what are you doing? Because it was just random, like a golf ball and a figurine and a piece of half a pen. And he's like, and I said, it's for an exercise. So our brains strive to identify things. So it needs to label things. It labels things good and bad. It labels things, scary, not scary. That's what our brain does. And so in mindfulness practices, we don't want that judgment. We don't want to label that stuff. There's just stuff. This decides whether it's good or bad. So Jason, are you something within arm's reach?
I do, yeah, and that's why. So, okay.
I don't want to see what it is. Okay, so close your eyes and just hold it in your hand.
Okay.
And I don't want you to identify what it is. Now, you know what it is because you picked it up. Normally, I would have everyone close their eyes and just plop something in their hand. So if you're sitting at home right now, please don't do this if you're driving. But if you're at home, have someone around you put something in your hand that you don't know what it is, or just randomly grab something off your desk, out of your purse, out of your bag, and just feel that thing and feel the texture of it. Is it smooth? Is it rough? Is there a shape to it? Kind of roll it around in your hands and see what it feels like. And then notice what the weight is. Is it heavy? Is it light? And see if you can just experience this thing without having to identify what it is, without having to think, oh, I have a golf ball. Just be with that object. And then kind of rub it on the back of your other hand. And how does that feel? Is that rough? Is it smooth? Does it smell like anything? Nope, mine doesn't. Shake it around. Does it make noise? Kind of tap it on the table. What's it sound like? Now here's the challenging one. Open your eyes and look at it without identifying it. Just notice what the shadows are, what the color is. Can you see what the texture is just by looking at it? Now, we would normally do that for much, much longer, but that's sort of the exercise, is just being with this object without having to identify it, without having to judge what it is. And it's really tough because your brain wants to be like, I wonder what this is, because that's an exercise too. Someone hands you something and you have to try to figure out what it is without looking. The ladies that I was on the retreat with, they loved this exercise. We did this 3 times because they found it so challenging and so interesting to try to just experience something without having to judge it, without having to name it. So how did you find that, Jason?
Well, it was interesting because it was, I guess, should we do the reveal of what it actually was?
Yeah, what do you have?
I'm actually holding, it's a crystal.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's perfect.
like a quartz.
Yep.
It's like a pink quartz. So,
Yeah.
it's, again, I mean, some of the words maybe that were kind of going through my head, it is heavier,
Mm-hmm.
because it's pretty good size. I mean, it covers most of my palm,
Yeah.
right? It's cold.
Mm.
Right. So even though, again, I mean, things like rocks, they pick up the heat and everything else. I'm sure if I sat here and held it for a long time, it
Yeah.
would get warmer, but it's cool to the touch compared with my skin,
Mm-hmm.
it being a human at 98.6. It's four-sided, right? But it's not, because it's kind of like it's got a flat one,
Mm-hmm.
2, 3 sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's sharp because the edges of it are actually sharp, because it's not a polished stone. It's just
Right.
you know, it's rough, and what you actually, I guess now as I'm feeling it but not looking at it, I didn't notice before until I looked at it too, but it's got a bunch of cracks in it.
Mm.
Right, because quartz like this usually has kind of some fissures through it,
Mm-hmm.
and now that I see that or identify that, you can actually feel where some of those cracks are as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's pointed.
Yeah.
It is rough. Yeah,
That's cool.
interesting.
So what that's training to do is to be present without judgment.
Yeah.
Which will help us in our visualization, which will help us in our communication, our leadership. I actually just randomly grabbed this little skunk that a friend of mine made. She's the same person that got me the little Listo. So when we did the What's on Your Desk episode, this little guy, they got a 3D printer at the company that I do work for. And so she 3D printed me this skunk. And it's really light. And I've not really held this before. I just stuck it on my desk. It's incredibly light. It's got a texture. The entire thing has a texture to it. And I think if someone just handed this to me, I could tell it was probably, I don't know that definitely wouldn't have known it was a skunk, but it's got a smooth bottom, and it's just got this really cool texture and a pointy little nose, and it smells like nothing. But yeah, it's kind of, there's rough spots and there's sharp spots, like his little hair is really rough, and he's got this little points and stuff on the tail. So it was kind of a cool activity for me, even though I was kind of directing you as well. But I did close my eyes and was doing it along with you. I think that's a great exercise. And sometimes when I'm doing longer workshops on the stress reduction, like I'm about to do a 3-hour workshop, I will have everybody do this because it's a mindfulness practice. But it also awakens that kinesthetic part of ourselves, because so often we go through our day not feeling anything. And we don't pause and think about that. We can, what are we hearing? What are we smelling? What are we feeling too? And for those of us who are really kinesthetic, I think it's a great way to tap into that relaxation response, that relaxation technique sort of thing. So.
Well, and even because, again, like as when you're going through a hypnotherapy session with people, you're incorporating a lot more of these things into it, right? Because again, you're trying to, if you're doing something where there's a visualization aspect to it, right? You're trying to get, and again, for me, this is a little different, right? I'm learning, but of incorporating colors, feel the tree bark, look up and see how green the leaves are, right? So you're pulling a color into it, so you can see see how the wind is moving the leaves, right? So you're hearing some of these kind of different things as well, and like you said, reach out and feel yourself touch the doorknob and open the doorknob. That there's these little things that the more of that we incorporate in, it's going to make those visualizations more lively.
Right.
And it's going to activate those different parts of our brain, because that's one of the things, as I've studied neurobiology, is there's different parts of the brain that are associated with each sense. And so the more of the senses, like you said, what does your thing smell like? Well, that seems kind of weird, right? It was like when Peter said, Jason, what does money smell like? And I'm like, I don't know. I pull out my wallet, right? Because I'm literal. But when you you know, like in that instance, when we were talking with him earlier on previous podcast, you know, for him, he was talking about, well, to him, money smells like the ocean
Yeah.
because money allows him the freedom to be able to walk on the beach and smell the ocean air. Right? And so again, any of those things that we're doing, the more sensory we can get in it, I think the easier it makes us from a visualization and consequently the manifestation side.
Yeah.
Where so many people are just trying to just see a static movie go on in their head,
Right.
but pulling more of that stuff into it will actually help
Right.
more.
And we have this debate all the time, but pretty much all hypnotherapists agree you can't have hypnosis without visualization. Whether it's, you know, a progressive muscle relaxation where you're picturing your, you know, your feet up through your body, or you're walking down the stairs, or you're in the hot air balloon, or, you know, visualization and hypnosis go hand in hand. And so for people who quote can't visualize, and there are people that truly cannot see pictures in their head, they can experience it without having to see it. Because just because you can't visualize something, you still know something. Like if you can't visualize and I send you to the store for a lemon, you don't have to look up what a lemon looks like before you buy it. You know what a lemon is, you might just not be able to see it in your brain. So, you know, and then
well, and I think we still see it, but it's not like watching a movie or TV.
Oh no, they can't see anything.
And nothing at all.
Nope.
Okay.
No picture. Like if I say picture a cat, she gets nothing.
Huh.
Yeah. No, that's a thing. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, because there's very few people though, I think, that fall into that, right?
Yeah. No, it's I mean, there are people that can't visualize well, but no, I had a client who literally cannot see a picture in her head.
Yeah.
Picture your childhood home. She's got nothing.
Okay. And see, for me, I don't see a clear, crisp picture in color necessarily, but I can, you know, like you said, when you say a lemon, I'm not seeing a lemon, but my mind is still kind of picturing it, even though I'm not seeing it. So I think that's, anyway, that's where I said I'm probably down further on that end, but it's, and I think too, probably the more that I do it, the better I'm going to get at it.
Totally.
As well. So going through an exercise like we just did is, you know, the more you do things like that, the easier it's going to be when, you know, like again, if let's say now if you said, hey, picture a pink quartz, well, I just touched that pink quartz, right? And so again, that physical tactile thing that I did and going through that exercise, my brain's programmed what I just saw and learned, and it's going to bring back that picture to me in my brain. So.
Yeah. And one of there's something called heavy light, which you can use either to see how hypnotizable somebody is. Like if you're doing a stage show, you'll have the entire audience do this, pick someone that's really suggestible, or it's a great induction, is you picture, back up and rip my head off, you picture heavy books in one hand and balloons tied to another one, and they gets heavier and heavier, and this hand's floating higher and higher, and your hands actually start to separate because your brain goes, oh, I'm holding books in a balloon, and you have people open their eyes and they're like totally, you're like, oh my God, because your brain is so powerful. So we can picture what those, I mean, I've seen people's biceps just go blink when you say there's heavy books. You can see them straining to hold the books up. It's pretty spectacular. It's really cool.
So that's a way, like you said, for stage shows, for the hypnotist to be able to determine who's more suggestible, which is going to actually allow them, or greater chance they're actually going to go under and be able to do what needs to be done during the show.
Yeah, it's also an induction. So I've gotten clients into hypnosis using that. So I'll have, you know, when your hand with the books touches your lap, you'll go deeper in hypnosis while putting the other hand down. It's also what we call a prover. It shows you your brain's following instructions. Because if I can't be hypnotized, and you do that to somebody and their hands are now like this, they're like, oh my God, that's so cool, you know. Or we'll do, you know, magic fingers where the fingers get magnetic fingers closer. That proves that shows them that it works.
Well, and that's
it shows them that it works, you know.
It's funny because actually my wife Allie and I we're going through like a online program that I got, and she's kind of going through it too. One of the exercises was, you know, hold up your hand everything together,
Mm-hmm.
hold it out, close your eyes, imagine your body sending energy to your hand. And so you just sit there and think of, or try to imagine, visualize energy going to your hand. And he's just sitting there talking, and you probably have your eyes closed for maybe 30 seconds as he's talking. And you open your hand, and mine was like this, right?
Mm.
Allie's was actually like, I mean, she was like, she sent a lot more energy than I did necessarily,
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
but
cool.
it again showed that even though, like you said, those magnetic fingers or the other stuff, that the mind can actually do that. I mean, I
Oh, yeah.
remember I was doing a sleep hypnosis, one time, and, they said, open your eyes, but you can't open them. And it
Yeah.
was like,
Try.
okay, I'm going to try it. And it was like, holy crap, I really can't open my eyes. It's like I'm trying and I can't do it.
Yeah. Well, and that's another one of those provers. And Mike Mandel talks about that, try. The harder you try, the more you realize you can't open them. Because to him, with his language stuff, he says the word try indicates failure. Can you pick me up after work? I'll try. Means you're probably not showing up. So unless you want someone to fail, especially, I'm talking about hypnosis, I'm not talking about real life, you use the word try. Try as hard as you try to open your eyes, you just can't. Your brain goes, oh, I can't. Oh, shoot, you're right. One of Mike Mandel's things. We use try a lot in hypnosis.
Yeah, because I've heard it from the other side.
I have as well. Oh, the eyes getting stuck shut. Oh my God, that's it. Because you're just like, they don't know. When you see the person like going like this, and it's not, they don't.
It's not working.
Nah. Yay, good.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's
Yes.
again, it's trying to just provide some tips for people again, right? So again, some of you may be trying to do visualization, trying to manifest certain things, and you're kind of struggling because you don't feel like you're doing it. Try to start incorporating some more sensory type of things into it, to make it more lively. Because there's the other thing. I mean, like you were talking about before, right? Is if the person's predominantly more of a kinesthetic person, as you're trying to visualize, the more kinesthetic activators, if you will, that you can bring in, whether that's physically crumpling up the paper, or seeing yourself touch the doorknob, feel the coolness of the doorknob, turn it, what is that, 90 degrees, to open the door, whatever it is, right? Each of those things for a kinesthetic person is going to make that more real for them.
Yeah.
Right. Or even the smelling, or, that one of the things that I've heard before, is people talking, or you hear background noise, and that's okay. The more background noise you hear, the deeper you go. Right.
Yep.
So again, something like that is something that will be more effective for somebody who's more of an auditory kind of person. Yeah. So, again, if you know kind of what your preferences are, what I usually say is just try to incorporate as many of them as you can. If you don't know, and even if you're predominantly one, the more you involve, the more it's going to stick in those different places in your brain.
Sure. Of course. Well, but in reality, if we look at what we're doing right now, we're touching things, we're hearing things, we're smelling things, we're tasting things, we're sensing. I mean, the senses go all the time. And smell is actually an incredibly powerful one, because that goes straight to the brain. And a lot of our memories come from smelling something. And it's so funny. My boyfriend and I were finishing up watching The Good Place. Love that TV show. Oh my God. But one of the episodes, when they get to The Good Place, it always smells like your favorite thing. And so for Chidi, who was a philosopher, he went, oh, old books in a library. And, there's certain smells just take you back to something, right? Whether it's cookies or, to me, it would be the smell of this sweet grass that I remember, not only from like mowing lawns in Pittsburgh, but also the sweet grass that I remember smelling in England when I was there. That would be my happy place smell. Takes you straight back to something, whether it's a certain perfume where you're like, Grandma, I mean, it's like that's, so we're surrounded by all that. So in hypnosis and in visualization and in abundance work, as real as you can make it, the more apt it's going to be to happen. So make it as real, bring everything in, and that way you're going to get more of what you want. I'm still doing this, that 21-day abundance program thing. We're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, making these visualizations real for you is key. So yay. All right. We've blown through our time once again.
So there's another tip for you to go out and try, something a little bit different. Cause like we're all about here, no one thing works for every person. So try some of these different things. We're bringing you lots of different things on purpose. Some things work better for other people than others. Even when Mike Mandel was on, and he was talking about the rock star. I mean, Mike's one of the best hypnotherapists in the world, and he couldn't, with hypnosis, get through to this guy. But the tapping exercise was like totally changed, right? So again, try some of these different things. Here's another one, that we're talking about today. Bring in more sensory, more of your senses into the things that you're doing, and it's going to make it much more vibrant.
And also just in life, experience these things on a different level. If you're not, take something off your desk, and what does it feel like? Oh, this is smooth, it's cold, it's got some rib, it's got a flat bottom, oh, there's little bumps on the bottom, it's a whiteout thing. I don't need to identify this as a whiteout container. I just want to experience this thing as a thing, without having to label it, judge it. That's going to change how you approach every aspect of life as well. So go out, grab something, not someone. HR calls. Bob keeps feeling people.
No, Bob, feel the whiteout bottom, not your coworker.
Bob's causing problems. We need to get rid of Bob.
Yeah.
Sorry for any of the Bobs out there. Okay. Well, once again, something fun to try. Go experiment. Go out. Make the world a better place. Okay, I'm Kathy Groover. I can be reached at kathygroover.com.
And I'm Jason Mefford. I can be reached at jasonmefford.com. So go out, try something new this week, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fire and Earth podcast. See ya.
See ya.